Morning everyone, welcome to Wool and Spinning. My name is Rachel and I can be found pretty much everywhere as well for pearls. Welcome to this place, welcome to this morning. It is Saturday, June 19th and we come together to talk about all things hand spinning, making yarn, spinning yarn, using your hand spun, and so forth. So welcome. I hope that you guys are doing really well. I hope that you've had a wonderful week. It's been a whirlwind here, so I hope that your week has been a little bit less crazy than ours. We've got 2 days left of school, so Monday and Tuesday, and the kids are actually sort of finished on Monday, and then Tuesday is what they call a fun day. So they're asked to only pack a lunch and to wear sunscreen. So they'll be outside all day. The kids came out of school yesterday absolutely exhausted, and James had brought home his portfolio and all of his stuff, and you could just see, like, he was so loaded down, and you could just see him. He was really excited, but he's also, it's bittersweet, right? So you could see kind of that he's torn. He's excited about summer, but also going to miss traditional school. So all these changes, all these things. So if you are a returning viewer and you are watching this show, please take a moment to hit the like and the subscribe button. I really appreciate it. And if you are a new viewer to the show and you haven't checked us out before, thank you so much for giving us a shot and for spending some time with us. And if you are a patron of the show, thank you so much. You keep the lights on, you keep everything functioning and flowing week in and week out, and I couldn't do this without the Patreon community. So thank you so much. We've got a full chat this morning. It's so good to see you guys. Charlotte said that it's 29 degrees Celsius in Houston, 84 Fahrenheit. We're actually sitting at 19 right now. So we're sitting, I guess that would be, is that in the 60s? Not very warm, but they said the cloud is supposed to clear later, so it should warm up. I have to admit, my favorite is around like 22 degrees Celsius because it's cool enough in the evenings to wear a sweater, but it's warm enough during the day to sort of wear a t-shirt and jeans, But I guess I like the heat and I like the cold, so I guess I kind of like everything. Pick one, Rachel, pick one. Welcome to Dana and Jennifer and Alex and Amanda. I'm sorry that I missed a book club yesterday. I was dropping my mom off at the ferry so that she could go and see my brother and sister-in-law, who she hasn't seen in over a year. She was super excited because we can now travel within the province, and so she's going to go and do that and spend the weekend with them, and I'll pick her up on Monday night. So that was really lovely, but it meant that I missed book club. I was super bummed. So I'm going to listen to the repeat to the recording that Becca posts on the Slack channel, and because we're doing women's work right now for that study, and I've been really enjoying that discussion. But yesterday was There by Tommy Orange, which is just an absolutely heartbreaking book, and it is just the imagery and the way that he writes and the way that he articulates each of the characters. It's just brings you to your knees. It's just a beautiful book. So really enjoying the conversation that's going along with that as well. And they've been long. I don't know how long you guys met for yesterday, Jennifer, if you were able to go, but the discussions have been quite long. Whomever's in the chat that's part of book club. Good to see everybody else. Karen's here. Mars is here. 88 Fahrenheit, she said. So close, a little bit hotter than in Houston. Mars is it's Miami, right? Or are you in Orlando? I know you're in Florida. I get all the cities all mixed up, and it's actually not because I haven't been there, because I've been to almost all of these cities. It's just I get confused about who's where. It's a lot to keep track of, which I know you guys can appreciate. Janine's logging in on her lunch break. Dana from Walla Walla, Washington. I've also been there, Dana. I will let you know next time we are going through Washington. Good to see you, Hannah. Oh, Jennifer wasn't able to attend either. So you're going to be listening to the repeat, the rewatch as well. West Palm Beach. That's right, Mars. I'm sorry. Anyhow, it's really, really good to see you guys. So today we will be delving into our second sheep breeds kit, and we will be getting onto the wheel. Last week we spun up some Merino. This is from the School of Sweet Georgia sheep breeds kit that goes along with my workshop that has been sort of slowly released over the last number of weeks. So I thought that we would just start at the beginning of the workshop. We won't do anything super fancy. We're going to start at the beginning and work our way through the fine wools, and there's 3 of them to spin. So last week we did the Merino, which we'll talk about briefly before we get on the wheel. This week we will look at Rambouillet, and then next week we'll look at the fin, and that will kind of finish the fine wools spinning. And then we'll go into the mediums, and then the longs, and then the primitive double coats. So that'll be really fun. Lots to look forward to. So let's talk about the Merino for just a minute. So I finished it off, and I'll flip the camera so that you guys can see, and I might have to zoom in the product camera a little bit, and you can see how just absolutely, I always have to get my bearings the first time when we're kind of working on the other camera. You can just see how bouncy and springy this is. It spun up and plied up to a sport weight, but I would say that this is almost sort of more of a DK now that it's finished. So lots of sproing, lots of poof. It's just a straightforward 2-ply. I did exactly what I said that I was going to do after our sampling last week. I did end up making a spinner's control card, and I will keep track of these so that I have all of them at the end. I'll have a total of 12, and we'll go through and do kind of a reflection on how different all of them are and how they spun differently. So these are the samples that I pulled off while we were spinning at the wheel last week, and that is sort of how my control cards start to look when it's relatively straightforward. I know I'm probably not going to recreate this yarn in any major way, like I'm not going to make an enormous project out of it. So I keep my cards a little bit simpler when that's the case, but I do still want a record and a sample, a record and a way to organize my samples. So that Merino turned out really beautifully. I'm not exactly sure what the yardage is. I haven't done a yardage. After post-washing, I didn't check the yardage. But I'll just, it's been skeined for the week. So this is washed and finished, like I said, and I'll just give you guys an up close of what that looks like. So just very typical Merino. It's got that little bit of almost kind of a bit of a chalky appearance, a little bit sort of undefined in terms of the singles and the twist angle. A little, it just looks exactly like what we would expect Merino to be. It's really, really next to the skin's fine. It's soft. It's lots of good bulk, so when you squish it down, it comes right back up. It's just got, a lovely hand, a lovely feel. I don't love the fine wools. You guys know that. I lean more towards the mediums. I really like slightly toothier wool. But this is this spun up really beautifully, and I could see this being used for something, especially for somebody who is sensitive to wool and sort of finds the tips a little bit difficult to have next to their skin. This would be a great yarn to make for a light wear sweater, maybe something with a bit of lace in it. I'm thinking like Lady Marpole or the Acer cardigan, or what else? Anything where there's like a lace panel, a 2-ply, DK weight, that would just be absolutely perfect for that yarn. And it would be a low, you wouldn't need tons and tons and tons of twist, because the cardigan itself wouldn't be expected to endure really hard wear. It would go over a t-shirt, a tank top. It would be something for in the evenings. That's when I wear mine mostly. Actually, my Lady Marpole, oh, it's not here anymore. Where did I put it? Oh, it's on the back of my chair in the kitchen. My Lady Marpole is actually in the kitchen. It's I knit it out of Malabrigo Arroyo, and it was deep, deep old stash. And I had taken the yarn on our trip to the Yukon and sort of thought, if I get to it and I knit with it, that's great, but I have other projects that I want to do. Well, I finished all of my other projects. One of them was the throwback, the color work one by Andrea Mowry that is knit back and forth, but it's got the color work yoke. If I were to do that one again, I would steek it. And I finished everything that I had brought. And then I had the Malabrigo Arroyo for the Lady Marpole, but I had to play around with the gauge a little bit because my the that Lady Marpole calls for worsted weight. If somebody can do it really super quickly, if you want to link that pattern on Ravelry in the live chat, that would be cool. And I think it's out of a worsted weight. Anyways, Arroyo is a sport at best. So I played around with the gauge a little bit, and I added extra lace panels so that there was more lace going up the front, because otherwise it would have been just this teeny tiny little panel up the front. And then I added it. I feel like, did I add it to the back or no? Anyways, it ended up being a much, much faster knit than I thought that it would be. And I wear it all the time. For a long time, it kind of spent a lot of time in my dresser, in my like sweater drawer. But it's funny because now I actually pull it out all the time, but it's shoulder season. I think it's because we're not quite in woolly sweater season anymore. And I don't find superwash wool as warm as 100% wool. It's just the surface of the surface of the wool is just different, and it doesn't quite act the same. So it's just not insulatory warm like 100% wool is, which I always find fascinating. So that is sort of my merino, and we'll get into the Rambouillet this morning. It definitely has a little bit of a different feel, and I talked to you last week about sort of the slightly different color of the two. The Rambouillet is a little bit more of an ivory color. I also finished another spin this week. I am on a finishing kick. I finished 2 sweaters. I finished 4 tea towels, which we'll talk about later, and I did some swatching. I am like on a roll, which it feels so good. So we won't talk about the sweaters this week. We'll talk about them next week, and that maybe will give me a chance to get them photographed. And but we will talk about my weaving this week. So without further ado, let's go into the intro, and I will meet you back here to talk about my finished spin and my tea towels, and then we'll get onto the wheel. So I told you guys that I had a pile of finishing. Here is a pile of finishing. Isn't that amazing? Everything is done. So I've got 4 tea towels here that are done. This one just needs this last little bit of hemming done. And I have 2 sweaters done. So for those who've been following me for a while and have been watching the podcast faithfully for the last little while, what sweaters have I finished? A little bit of a quiz. Eve had asked if I'm going to spin them all the same way. I'm not sure. My original plan was to do that, Eve, and now I'm kind of not sure what I'm going to do. So I'm sort of going to reserve judgment. I'm just not totally and completely sure what I'm going to do. So we will talk about the sweaters next week, and then I'll hopefully have a chance to talk to you guys about I'll have them photographed and have a little bit more to say. So this is my finished spin this week. I have been working on my Longway Homestead breed study. So there's 12. When you sign up for Longway Homestead, it's located in Manitoba. They run a mill. They also have livestock, and it's Anna, right? Anna. When you sign up for a 12-month installment. So you just do the 12 months, and after that it's canceled and you're done. So basically every month you get a different breed. It's all pin drafted roving, and I've just been kind of stockpiling them a little bit. I have so far of the 12 I have spun, and I'm not quite done. I think I'm about halfway through receiving, maybe a little bit further. I think I've got like 4 months left. I've got finished and spun. I've got my Finn, Rambouillet, and now the Wensleydale. I feel like I have one more done, but maybe I'm mistaken. So I've been kind of stockpiling them and saving them. I'm not doing anything with them quite yet because I'm actually really hoping that I can do something with them as a group, or maybe just have them together and be able to photograph them when they're done. But this was the Wensleydale, and I always, honestly guys, always spin Wensleydale as a singles. I just love Wensleydale as singles. But because I always do that, I thought, you know what? I'm going to spin a little bit finer. I'm going to get onto the wheel, see how this acts as pin drafted roving, and I'm going to see, you know, what it's like to spin, and then I'll go from there. So it spun beautifully from the pin drafted roving. We don't generally, you know, do pin drafted roving for the longer wools, but this was really nice. It worked out really well. And what I ended up, and it spun quite fine. So what I ended up doing on my Lundrum Saxony, I put it at 18-1, and I basically spun continuous back where I treadled 3 times and I drafted 3 times. So because I was drafting quite a long length of fiber, because it was just naturally wanting to draft about 5 inches, I was drafting quite long. So 1, 2, 3 on, 1, 2, 3 on, 1, 2, 3 on, and not really. And I was smoothing, but not super, super firm. Just really, really gentle smoothing. And it spun up these just unbelievably fine singles. Probably sort of, lace weight singles. I never did take the wraps per inch, or the wraps per inch. But the finished yarn, this is washed and finished. The finished yarn has ended up being about 16. Maybe 14 in places, so a really lovely sport weight, and it's just ended up being just a really lovely yarn, and you can see the sheen on that. Like, the camera can't pick it up really, really well because of the light coming in. It just wants to blow it out because of the sheen. And of course, typical of the long wools, you can see that beautiful halo. It's one of the reasons why I love them so much. And this is why some people think that they, or not that they think, but they know that they can't wear these right next to their skin, because those tips that are poking out, it just scratches and rubs, and they just find it really, really, really hard to wear next to their skin. I love the look of it. This would have been beautiful as a boucle. This would have been beautiful as a singles. This would have been, I always, with the long wools, I don't love 3 plies for the long wools. I find they just get a little bit too wiry, a little bit too stiff. I really like the drape that you can achieve with a low twist 2-ply. What I wanted to show you, and why I wanted to start with this, is actually if you put the Merino, I'm just going to undo it. If you put the Merino next to the Wensleydale, this is where you can really see how fine and medium wools, fine and down wools are so different. So these are both spun to about 14 wraps per inch, okay? 14 wraps per inch, 14 wraps per inch. And look at how different they are. Like, look at that twist angle on there. The twist angle is about 40 degrees. The twist angle on the Wensleydale is about 30 degrees. Look at the halo on this, the lack of halo on the Merino. You can even see it up here by the table where you've got kind of a backdrop. You've got this, really kind of almost sort of a chalky-like appearance. It's going to take the dye in a very saturated way. It's going to be very bright. And this is the silver gray. It's going to be very muted, very dark. We've done work with these colored fleeces in the past in breed and color study. We know how they dye up and how they spin up. 2 very common wools for hand spinners, 2 totally different yarns. Same weight, both 2-ply. You guys are quiet this morning. Normally chat is just like, and I can't keep up with it. But today you guys are quiet. The Merino is white, so white and beautiful. Yeah, thank you, Dana. Some people really love, like, if you love Merino, you love Merino. And then if you don't like Merino, you really don't like Merino. I'm kind of somewhere in between. I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's not my favorite. It's not my first choice. I definitely lean toward more of these wools. Like Lindsay said, the gray takes my breath away. Honestly, of the two, I would choose the Wensleydale. They're both very soft, I will say. They're both very, very soft. But because of the halo on that Wensleydale, there are people, even within our own community, that wouldn't be able to handle that next to their skin. Katrina and I have had some conversations about it because she finds some of this really hard. She's ultra sensitive. And like my brother wouldn't be able to handle this. Mike wouldn't be able to handle this. I don't even think James could handle this. So you really need to know, like, you know, what you can cope with and what you can't cope with. Cause you know, you go and knit, say, a beautiful shawl out of this, and then you put it next to your skin, and then what do? Do you wear it on the outside of your jacket, the outside of your vest? It's challenging. It's hard. You need to know. All right, so I did do some swatching this week. The one thing I wanted to do was some swatching, and I did. So I have some undyed kid mohair silk in my stash. It's from Chaotic Fibers from when they were trying to retire for the second time, and then thankfully they were bought. So she's been able to retire, and which is just wonderful for her. So this is some kid mohair silk yarn, which we're all familiar with because it's really popular right now. Held double with my, does anybody want to guess? See if you guys can guess. Sarah struggles with the long wools too. I've never spun Wensleydale before. We'll have to give it a try. Absolutely, Dana. Keep your hands far apart and a very light touch. I'm so glad to see the Wensleydale. I'm processing my first fleece, a silver gray BFL. My first sample looks similar to your Wensleydale, but I put too much twist in. Yeah, definitely, Suzanne. Just back off a little bit on your twist, and I think you'll have an absolutely beautiful yarn. How many meters of the Wensleydale did you get? I'm actually not sure, Wendy, because I haven't done my yardage yet. But I will when I reskein it and calculate that. So I'll post it for sure. So this is my, I'm just waiting to see if somebody will guess. This is my Beaumont. So this is the 2-ply Beaumont alpaca that I've been working on. It's a 50-50. I was going to use this for some weaving that's up and coming. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to swatch and just see where I get. So this is a swatch for Enchanté by, oh shoot, now I'm going to mess it up. What is her name? Hannah very, 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 very kindly and generously gifted me the pattern for my birthday, which was just so unexpected. So thank you so much. It's by Emily Louie, and I'll link the pattern for you guys. I absolutely love, love, love this sweater. It's a lace, it's a pullover. I am a sucker for lace lately. I don't know what it is about lace. Like, I just did the Florence tank. That was one of the sweaters that I showed you earlier that I asked you guys what they were. And nobody, you guys, I checked, but I don't think anybody guessed. So there was the Florence tank, and then there was the Magnolia Bloom, and that's lace as well. It's also got some like faux cabling. But I've just been a sucker, and like I did the Poet this year. Sorry, that was last year. I've just been kind of a sucker for all of this lace lately. I think it's partially because I'm looking for some challenge in my knitting, but I don't want anything that's like over the top, but I want something that'll just slow me down, take a bit longer. So this is for Enchanté. So Enchanté calls for the other name for it, the English name is Nice to Meet You. So she's given it 2 names. There's the French pattern, and then because she's a French designer. I'm not actually sure where she lives. If she's in France or if she's in Quebec, if she's Canadian, I'm not totally sure. I'm thinking she's probably in France just based on where her yarns are coming from, but I have no idea. Maybe somebody else knows. So she... what was I going to say? So this pattern is lace on the front and back, and you knit it from the bottom up. And the pattern calls for holding a DK weight with the silk mohair. And so together they make a 9 wraps per inch yarn, which is basically a worsted. Now, when I hold these 2 yarns together, so this is what I wanted to share with you. When I hold these yarns together, because the Beaumont is so fluffy, It kind of comes in sort of around like 10, 11, even though the Beaumont is a sport weight at best. So the Beaumont is sort of about 14 wraps per inch. That seems to be my default right now. I seem to be spinning a lot of stuff to 14 wraps per inch right now. I don't know why. I do love that knitting weight, I will say. So anyways, the Beaumont's really, after washing and in the swatch and stuff, it really poofs up. And so when I did my gauge swatch, I did start at the needle size that is called for in the pattern, knowing that it would be too big. And I went down to 4mm needles and got gauge. So I did have to downsize my needles. The yardage in the pattern is not a lot, and so I will have more than enough of the Beaumont, and I can always shorten the sleeves if I need to. The other thing too is the sleeves are knit quite loose, and then you do a bunch of decreases at the end to make that kind of, I don't know what it's called, but those type of sleeves that kind of come in at the end with the I-cord. It's not my favorite, so I'm gonna knit closer set sleeves, a little bit more fitted. So that is that project, and thank you again to Hannah, because that was really, really generous of her. So let's talk about my Rambouillet. We need to keep the show moving because we've got queries and explorations today, and I want to be able to start that on time. So this is the Rambouillet. This is part of the Sheep Breeds kit from Sweet Georgia. So this is part of the workshop that I just designed and wrote and recorded with Felicia and Greta and Leah, and is now available on the School of Sweet Georgia. I think we're still slowly releasing content on there. So this is part of the kits that you can get as part of that workshop to keep yourself, so that you can apply the things that we talk about. And Eve had asked earlier in the show if I'm going to spin them all the same way. I don't know, to be honest. I'm not sure. It kind of depends on what we come up against. So I'll have to wear pearls. That's so true, Karen. So for this one, Rambouillet, again, like Merino, it tends to want to spin very, very fine. This actually feels a little bit finer than the Merino from last week. This actually feels even a little bit finer. So I'm wondering if it's going to want to be spun quite fine. This would be just a beautiful fiber for a baby knit or a cowl. You could divide, after you finish spinning, you could divide up your skein and dye a couple of different colors, and then you could do some color work to give the fabric a little bit more. Sorry, I'm shaking the table. Sorry, guys. You could to give the cowl a little bit more, not durability necessarily, but when you're knitting color work, you're basically it's double knit, right? Like you've basically got 2 layers of fabric. So that would be something that you could think about. The other thing you could think about is a toque. Again, you could knit, but you could dye different colors, and then you would end up with some really interesting color work. And again, that double fabric. You could card this up with some other fibers and make a really neat bat. You could dye this and then card it up with other stuff. Oh my goodness, you could knit a baby cardigan, a set of baby stuff, little baby mitts with a little cardigan, anything next to the skin. The thing is, this is very, very fine. So you're gonna want something that will not necessarily have a ton of wear and tear and a lot of abrasion, but it's going to be warm. I'm just stripping this down to kind of get going. Two ounces, with 2 ounces of this, and then like you could add in the Merino, you could add in, like the kit comes as 3, right? So you've got the Merino, the Rambouillet, and the fin. The fin is gray. It's the same color as the Wensleydale. So you could actually, and that's starting to get into the medium wools a little bit. That's kind of going along that spectrum that we've talked about. So you could actually like combine it all into a project. So you don't In that situation, you don't actually only have 2 ounces, you have 6 ounces to play with. One of the things that if I wasn't spinning this for you guys, knowing what I know, and with the amount of experience that I have and having spun all of these breeds before, and having done this type of sampling before, to be totally honest with you, I think that I would actually grab the kit and spin each to a bobbin. So the fin to a bobbin, the Merino to a bobbin, and the Rambouillet to a bobbin. And I would ply them together and make a marled yarn, a barber pulled yarn. And then I would dye it. And you would have just the amazing depth and tone and differences of the gray fin, the fact that the Merino and the Rambouillet are going to take the dye ever so slightly differently. And you would just end up with just the most beautiful yarn. You could dye it like a forest green. And then you'd have that dark gray green on the fin. And that forest green on the Rambouillet and the Merino, and you would just have a fantastic yarn. And the surface of the yarn, because the 3 wools would finish ever so slightly differently, you'd have just an absolutely beautiful 3-ply, interesting, you could spin it quite fine, and oh my goodness, it would just be amazing. I mean, I think that's actually what I would do. And then you would have a 6-ounce skein. So let's just take a moment, and I'm going to turn my camera here. It always just takes a moment to get set up, so just give me a quick sec here. And if you guys have any questions specifically about what I'm doing and how I'm spinning, if there's something in particular that you're wondering about, please just fire those off, because I don't know if you don't ask. And you know, if there's something in particular that you're wondering about, or something in particular that you want addressed. So I am just going to get started, because I might have to actually move. Well, let's see how this goes. I might have to move a little bit, because I'm not sure that you guys are going to be able to see what I'm doing. There we go. I don't know if I need my spinning apron or not. You guys can let me know, because I'm wearing quite a light colored skirt today. So if you'd like me to put the apron on, please just let me know if it's hard to see. So let's see what we end up with here. So I always start off with my default, right? So I always kind of start spinning as if I know what this is. I treadle at my default speed, which is quite slow. And I just start spinning as if I already know what I'm doing, and I just go straight into my default. So 1, 2, so basically that's 2, 3, 4, 5 on, and that's 3 treadles. So it's 5 continuous drafts back and 3 treadles is my default. That's what I always settle into when I'm not paying attention. And you can see how fine this is spinning. It's just immediately wanting to draft quite fine. For a little 2-ounce sample like this, if I were to do a 3-ply, I would probably chain ply it. It would just be really easy to chain ply. Yes, please, apron. Okay, thanks, Dana. Okay, just let me do a ply back and I'll have a look. Don't do that with your ply back samples and just let them go like I just did. It doesn't work. All right, so the nice thing is going forward, you guys, if you're watching the replay, the name of the fiber that I'm spinning is actually in the title. And I'll go back and change last week's to add the Merino. So that's my default. It's not super consistent because of just the nature of the fine wools and how they spin. There's definitely some thicker point parts that came through little bit finer. Continuous back is never going to be as consistent as your short forward, right? So just starting off and just spinning on default, not super, super consistent, and definitely not exactly what I'm looking for and what I'm going for. I find the fine wools, it really does make a difference to take the time to spin them in a way that is going to be really super consistent. And with the continuous back, I'll just put it right here so you guys can see it. Sometimes that doesn't give us what we're looking for. It doesn't give us the consistency that we're looking for. So if I draft, if I'm going to do short forward, I need to change my ratio. So just give me a sec here. So now I'm doing short forward, draft, 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 draft. And when I draft, I'm treadling. So my right foot is going down. People get really fast at this. It's something that I have to work at. It's not my favorite. So when I'm doing short forward, I have to really work at it. But you'll see why it's worth it. Okay, so 1 treadle per draft. I really should be using my orifice hook, you guys. And you'll see the difference in these 2 yarns. And you can see how fine the Rambouillet wants to spin. So much better, much more consistent. And you can see the elasticity. Look at that elasticity. I know it's not quite focused yet, but there you go. Look at that elasticity. Isn't that cool? How pale I am. I actively try to stay out of the sun because of my coloring. And I always, whenever I'm talking to you guys on the show, I'm always like, oh my gosh, I'm so pale. When you see my hands, my arms, I mean. So let's have a look at these 2 samples side by side. So I would probably still add a little bit more twist, but this sample here is the continuous backward and this one is the short forward. So you can see how much bounce and sproing there is in that one. There's quite a bit in the other one as well, but this one's definitely more consistent and it has both have a really nice twist angle for sure. But you can see how much more consistent the short forward is. It's a little bit, looking at it down here on the table, I know it's hard for you guys to see, but looking at it down here on the table, it actually doesn't quite have as much twist as the continuous back. So I wonder if I went down a bit too much in ratio because I was spinning on 12:1. So let's go to 15:1 and see. And then I'll show you a 3-ply as well. So backhand, super light, holding the fiber very, very lightly. Its job is just to direct. So where my back thumb is where I draft from at the front. So if your back thumb is over here, you can't draft. So keep your thumb where you want to work. It's hard to talk and treadle and draft and stay on track, but that's okay. We can do this. Okay, so let's look at the 3-ply. So we're going to wrap from the orifice side. That's lovely. That'll poof up and finish just beautifully. That's really nice yarn. So this is the 2-ply. And this is a slightly higher ratio, so up to 15. This was 12-1. This is 15-1. And look at that amazing twist angle on that 3-ply. Beautiful yarn. This would make an awesome sweater yarn. That would just be so fantastic. You could even do cables with that, and that would just be phenomenal. Really cool. So let's have a look. Let's just do that one more time, and we'll look at the 2-ply. I just have to get back into a rhythm. Whenever I'm spinning the fine wools, I find that I really I really tend to like them spun short forward the best, unless they're carded. They just really do well short forward. And it's a great way to be able to get all of the twist that you want into them. It's harder to get the twist in that you want spinning continuous back or other ways. But like if you do short forward, all you have to do is treadle, 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 and you get that twist in. And you get it in there consistently. I'm drafting forward a little bit more than an inch. It's probably like 1.25 inches. So it's 15 twists per inch, 15 twists going into sort of more like 1.25 inches of yarn. So this is the 2-ply at 15-1 versus 12-1. And I think that this yarn is actually a little bit more, it's a little bit better than the 12-1. So this is the this is the 15-1. And then let me add, this is the 12-1. So you can see the twist angle is a little bit different. This one's a little bit firmer. This one's a little bit softer. This yarn is a little bit better in terms of like a structurally sound yarn. If you were going to knit that into something, a shawl or a toque or a cowl, you'd maybe want to spin a little bit thicker so that you're not spinning quite as fine, and it's a little bit more consistent. And I think that yarn is, yeah, it's spinning to about 16 wraps per inch. The other one is about the same, so they'd probably poof up to about 14 wraps per inch, so you'd have a lovely sport weight yarn on your hands. Surprise, surprise. So that is very cool. And I'll just show you one more. The 2-ply at 15-1 versus the 3-ply at 15-1. So this is the 3-ply at 15-1, and this is the 2-ply at 15-1. You can see how they're very different yarns. The 2-ply is a little bit more oval looking, a little bit flatter. The 3-ply is much rounder, a little bit thicker. This is going to poof up to like 11 wraps per inch, whereas this one will go up to about 14. So for continuous backward Ruth, I was using 28-1 because that's what I leave my wheel on. So I just started at that. Great question. I have to keep my samples organized so I can put them on the card after the show. So the last thing that I wanted to show you guys is my towels. I also finished my forager vest. I should show that to you guys too. So I finally finished after a year and, oh, it's been a long time. After a year and probably, well, I started this in March of 2020. So this is the storage, the forager vest. I finished it yesterday. So I kind of mostly followed the pattern. This was supposed to just be a muslin to just assess fit, and then I would make the real one. But this took me over a year to make, so I may or may not make another one. But I really love how it turned out. The reason why I wanted to make it, actually, you guys will laugh at me. I wanted to make it because I wanted something for when I'm teaching to be able to put lots and lots of stuff in my pockets. And And there's this great book, and I wish now that I had bought it at the time, and I didn't. But Nora took it out of the library quite a few times from school, and I just kept thinking, we need to buy this book. We need to buy this book, and we never did. But it's got this great page in it, and it's just exactly like what Nora is like. And it says, my only hope for you, or no, my wish for you is that your pockets, that you have so many treasures that your pockets overflow. And if you know Nora in real life, Nora is a collector. She always has treasures. She's always got stuff. And that sewing this always made me think of that book. And so I wanted a vest like this. And I think Kelly made one as well, but she actually got hers done. I wanted it for Fibers West for teaching in 2020, but of course we all know what happened. So I never finished it. And I was on such a finishing kick this week that I pulled it out and I was like, I have one seam left to sew. Like, how ridiculous is that? And so I did it. So it is done, and I will definitely wear it. We get so in our heads, right? You guys, like sometimes it's just, we're so in our heads and this is what happened with my magnolia bloom, which we'll talk about next week. It's washed, blocked, done. I was so in my head about it that I just couldn't get over the hump of just knitting down the sleeves a little bit to see what the fit would be like and then going from there. Like I just couldn't make that mental jump. I couldn't make the mental jump of actually finishing this. If I finished this, it meant that Fibers West really didn't happen. And when Rebecca was here, she really didn't get to go to the show, and I really didn't get to teach, and I didn't get to teach at the Knit City retreat that was in later that month in April. And it was kind of like a culmination of all these things were real, and kind of part of the grieving process and part of kind of mourning everything that happened that spring. And I wasn't doing well with my health, and finishing it actually felt like a release. It was like, we're done. So the Forager vest, if you do a Google search, you'll find it, but I think it's so liberated. Also 1,000 plus for deep pockets for all the things. Totally, Alex. It's so liberated. Yeah, you guys are right. I always forget. I love her patterns, I have to admit. So I'm just looking, love the 3-ply, says Dana, about the Rambouillet. Oh, good, Linda. Welcome. Glad to join for the first time. So Linda, for anybody watching this who's a first time joiner of the show and joiner of the live stream, in the show notes, there is a tutorial on how to access the live chat. So do have a look at that. It's there every week. I made it a couple of years ago. It's always linked there. And it says live chat assistance, and it's a post. So I'll just link that for you guys in the live chat, but it's always there for you guys. So these towels, these were, how do you say the name? The drop, I've left the pattern over there. It's a pattern off of Just Yarn. And so I did 2 where I was just sampling. This is a Huck lace pattern, and this is what it looks like when it's out. And I used just a myriad of different natural colors for the warp. So there's some cotton in here. There's some natural cotton, and then also some just natural 2/8 cotton. And then I did a panel just to see how it would weave up. And this is actually 4/8 cotton. So the warp is 2/8 cotton. In between here on the weft is 2/8 cotton, the white, and then the blue is 4/8 cotton. And I was a little bit concerned that my selvages, that it would flare out, but it actually was fine. It's come out really, really nicely. And when these are folded into 3, this one's not hemmed yet, so I'm not going to play with it too much because I don't want it to start to unravel, but I love the blue, so I wanted to show that to you guys. The pink, when it's folded in 3, it's just beautiful. My mom actually really liked this one. So this one's hemmed and finished. And I was playing with, so this one compared to the other one was 4/8 cotton for the Huck. This is 2/8 cotton for the Huck. So it's 2/8 cotton all the way through. And you can see next to this, which is 4/8 cotton, you can see how the fabric is different. This is much more subtle, much gentler, much quieter. It looks a bit more lacy. If I show it to you up a little bit closer, it's got this lovely wave effect Just beautiful. And I set these at 18 ends per inch. And then these were woven to pattern. So you can see, this is why I said tea towels, because these are not tea towels. And I have to go back to the big screen so that you can see truly how big these are. So I wove these to pattern. They are huge. The finished measurements I have over there, but they've kind of come out more like little bath towels. So again, the yellow is 4/8 cotton and the white is all 2/8 cotton, which I actually really like the effect of. And they're going to be just unbelievably absorbent. They're just going to be fantastic. So this is 20 inches of huck across the middle of the towel, and then 6.5 inches of tabby with the contrast color, which is 4/8 cotton. So I beat very, very, very lightly. So it's unbalanced, and then another 6.5 inches, and then the hem. So it was really fun to play with different weights on the same warp. And these are actually, I talked to Jenny, who's a member of our community, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with these. Like, they're so big, and I have 2 of them. I am actually going to put them in the in the trailer, for when we go to like the beach, or when we need stuff that's light and small. These would fit perfectly in the basket, when we're going down to the beach or in the backpack, and they're super absorbent. I find that my hand woven tea towels out of 2/8 and 4/8 cotton, I find they dry like that. They're super fast. And so, that's what I'm going to use them for. And they go with the colors in the trailer, which is great because the colors in the trailer are very neutral, grays and whites. So with a little bit of hit of the yellow, which matches our dishes in the trailer, the things that I think about sometimes, it actually, they'll work really super well, and it'll give us a little bit of color and something that we can use. So that's actually really exciting, but they are massive. So they've kind of ended up being more like tea blankets. Dorothy, you nailed it. Tea blankets. That's exactly what it looks like. So the other 2 towels, I wish I had more of them. I wish I had a whole bunch of those instead of 2 of these. But that's okay. You know, it's live and learn, right? And I could always do another warp and do it again, and just weave up these. They were super, super, super fast. And, you know, you could even throw on like a 3-yard warp and get three or 4 towels off of it, and it would just be really lovely. This one especially turned out really beautifully with the 2/8 cotton for both warp and weft, and for the huck. It's just a really lovely effect. Although I have to admit, I do like this because it's got this really, you can really see the huck, and it's got that texture that we all love. So yeah, fabric as texture and playground, right? I mean, we all love it. So much fun. Hello to Becca. She's just joining us. So good to see you. Family thing ran longer. That's wonderful. Good to see you. What was the width in the read? I got it all written down, Dana, so I will publish when I was going to do a blog post about this, so I will, when I do, I'll link it in the Slack channel, and I'll put all of the stuff there. So thank you so much, you guys. Let's go into community participation, because we've got some really fun stuff to share this year. So today, we always have fun stuff to share every year. For June, in the YouTube comments or in the thread on Ravelry, the June episode thread, for those who use Ravelry, please tell us about your plans for the summer as we approach more opening and gathering. And it's been really fun to read what people have written so far. We're going to start off with our breeding color study because very sadly we are coming to the end of our Shetland study. I wanted to briefly mention that sometimes we feel like we have to get the spinning done within that 6 months, and many of us do. I have to, for obvious reasons, you know, being the host and whatnot. But if you're sort of still sitting on it and you're still kind of, you know, figuring out what you want to do, ruminating a little bit, don't hesitate as you do finish in the future to still share your stuff, because people are still sharing stuff from the Massom study, from the Finn study. Somebody recently shared from the Gotland BFL study, which was way back at the beginning, our very first one. So don't hesitate to keep sharing, because it's still important to see down the road what people have done. Katrina and I have already recorded and put everything together for July's study. That will be starting on July 1st. And on July 1st, the Woolen Spinning Radio episode that introduces the study and gets you guys going, it's for all patrons of the community, that Woolen Spinning Radio episode, that will be released for everyone on July 1st. So please watch for that, and you guys can see what we've got in store for you and what's up and coming. That will be released, if you want to make a note of it, in your calendars. And there will be lots this time round because it's carded, so it's a smaller study. That will be released on... I didn't write it down. Shoot. I think it's the 12th. But it might be the 19th, but I'm sure it's the 12th. So that will be in the Woolen Spinning Radio episode, and then you guys can make a note of that and get it all your stuff. So first off, for breeding color study, Becca shared this, and it's kind of a double share. So now that I have some big certificate spins off my mind and wheel, including the 3-ply Castle Milk Moret that I thwacked and folded a bit yesterday, I am finally getting stuck into the breeding color study. I drew up my plan and split all the braids today. Maybe I will be done before the next one arrives on my doorstep, ... So this is her getting it ready here. It's just absolutely beautiful. And actually, Becca, did you order the full braid set or the half braid set? I can't remember. And that Castle Milk Moret is just beautiful. I told you guys about my dream about Castle Milk Moret now that I can spin it because I'm done the filming for the sheep breeds. I was actually thinking it's such a weird and wonderful wool, and it's so hard to get here in North America. I actually thought I'll card it up, put it on my drum carder, and then we'll do a spinning demo sample thing of it on the Wool Circle. And we can navigate that together, all of us. So beautiful spinning, Becca. The full braid set. Okay, so you do have quite a bit to share, to play with. That's awesome. This is from Mary. So this is for our Tour de Fleece 2021. So we have a woolen spinning team. I have put the avatars on the Ravelry group. I think I put them in the Slack channel, but if I didn't, I will do that. Let me just have a look. I think I didn't, so I will do that. On the Slack channel, it is hashtag TDF2021. So if you guys are doing Tour de Fleece and you're on the Slack channel, definitely share your stuff there. And this is from Mary. She is prepping row legs for Tour de Fleece and spinning some white Romney Polypay cross to weave with. This bunch is pretty coarse, so it may end up as rug yarn. Beautiful. I love those row legs, Mary. Just gorgeous. Kelly is also doing some Tour de Fleece prep. As a special Tour de Fleece treat, I bought Inglenook Fibers 100% cashmere fiber braids that they have called Lavender Fields, 9.5 ounces of vibrant cashmere. Isn't that beautiful? Of course, I couldn't wait to start. It feels incredible, and I hope I can do it justice. Tips are welcome. I've never spun 100% cashmere before. You look like you're off to a really amazing start, Kelly. Beautiful. Gorgeous. So that's getting started on our Tour de Fleece. Tour de Fleece runs from Saturday, June 26th. So we will be kicking off next Saturday, and it will run until July 18th. There is more information in the Ravelry group about that. I'll link that for you guys in the live chat right now. And there's also a link in there for the Tour de Fleece, like the official group, so that you can see what the rules are and whatnot. And I've tried to cross-post everything to Slack for those who don't use Ravelry. And if you have any questions or you want to get in touch, please just let me know. I have fiber all down my throat. I can feel it from talking so much and like inhaling. All right, so this one is from Kaylee. So this is Spindle Spun Summer. This is going to officially kick off on the summer solstice on Sunday, Sunday, June 20th. How much can we spindle spin by the end of the summer? And we will end on the autumnal equinox on Wednesday, September 22nd. So our last day to submit will be, like the last day to finish spinning will be Tuesday, September 21st. So we will be starting on next Sunday. So it actually is kind of neat because it runs parallel to Tour de Fleece at first. And we'll be spindle spinning all summer. So I'm really looking forward to seeing all of the spindling photos. So this is from Kaylee. This is more like a spindle spun year-long project, but hey, it's done. I started spinning on a wheel and never saw the draw of spindles until the last year or so when I realized that I really like the process of making. I started the singles last fall and picked away on them when we traveled or for a couple minutes at night. I think this is some of the most even spinning I have ever done. I actually find that with my spindles as well, Kaylee. I spin the most even on my spindles. She ended up with 262 yards of 3-ply, 16 to 18 wraps per inch, and she believes the fiber is Polworth, but she lost the tag. It is beautiful, these colors. Gorgeous, and I love it photographed against the brick because it's just neutral enough that it sets off that green. It's just gorgeous. This is from Kelly. This is part of our Natural Shades Along that's going on all year, celebrating the natural shades of all things natural. So whether it's plant-based or wool or silks. And this is Kelly. I don't think I've shared my latest spins. The last few weeks I've been playing catch up on the Longway Homestead Breed of the Month Club. I don't have any particular plans for these, although I may end up breaking up the skeins and adding them into the mini skeins for the School of Sweet Georgia Natural Dye Study Group I'm in this summer. We'll see. The only plan I have is that I'm practicing my long draw. Shout out to Eve or Ollie Cobb, which Cornwell Crafter, she's in the chat today, for unintentionally lighting a fire under my butt to get working on these. First the Icelandic, and then the second is the Border Cheviot. So this is the Icelandic, and the white one is the Border Cheviot. The Border Cheviot is so squishy, I could stand and squish it all day. I haven't spun this one yet, but it's my next on my list. And that is actually what got me going with my Wensleydale. Kelly posted these photos and said that this fire had been lit under her, and I was like, I have to get one of these back on the wheel. So I grabbed the Wensleydale and I just started. So thank you to Eve and Kelly for doing that. And then of course Eve started spinning, you know, Twisted Fire Starter, and then I couldn't stop spinning. This beautiful finish and make is from Janelle. This is for Zero to Hero, which again goes on all year in our community. It keeps us going and keeps us sort of focused on these really big spins that where we're, you know, dealing with the raw fiber, whether it's, you know, roving or comb top, or we're processing by ourselves, keeps us going with the spinning and then with the making, whether it's woven, crocheted, knit, whatever. So Janelle, hey friends, I finished my Zero to Hero hashtag Natural Shades Along. This was natural fin top that I blended into bats with 20% bamboo viscose, and then decided to make roll legs with hand cards for some reason. One of my spinning goals is to remember how to spin thick yarn, so I spun this Aran weight yarn long draw for true woolen with a traditional 3-ply. Amazing, Janelle. The resulting yarn is a bit too coarse for your average pullover, but I'm really accustomed to farmy wool, so I dove in anyway. This is my first Aran since making this goal, and it's exciting to achieve even if it's not very consistent. The knitting looks amazing. Like, your knitting hides any inconsistencies that there was. And it's the perfect pattern too, because you're looking at reverse stockinette, so then it hides everything. And remember, 3-ply hides everything too. Spinning woolen covers a multitude of issues. I like to find my preferred fabric with a swatch and use the gauge to search for a pattern most of the time. This led me to a long-owned, never knit pattern by Andrea Mowry, The Weekender. I knit the hem before eye surgery, and thanks to the magic of muscle memory, I knit almost the whole sweater with my eyes closed during recovery. That's amazing, Janelle. Fiber arts is the best hobby for so many reasons. The knitting is not perfect and the spinning is not perfect, but I think it suits the casual nature of this garment. Also, I got a dress form, unnamed so far, and it feels like a game changer. She photographs well in my bathtub. I loved that. When I read that, when I was putting this all together, I have to admit, Janelle, I actually laughed out loud. Beautiful, beautiful, Janelle. We need to celebrate these big, big knits and spins because these are like big deals. Mary says, beautiful sweater, Janelle. You're absolutely right, Wendy. Tomorrow is the start of Spindle Spun Summer, and next weekend is the start of Tour de Fleece. I think I might have messed that up a little bit when I was just speaking about it just now. But yes, tomorrow is the 20th, so Spindle Spun Summer starts tomorrow, and Tour de Fleece starts next Saturday. So it'll start next Saturday when we do the live stream. Megan is steeking. Isn't that beautiful? Those colors. I can't wait to see this finished. It's absolutely gorgeous. I don't think this is hand spun, but I wanted to share this photo with you because this is part of our play. Sample spinning, playing, experimenting, trying new things. Beautiful colors. Seeing how gorgeous the Weekender is in hand spun is giving me the push. That's good, Wendy. I want to knit that actually as well. It's been the fingering version of that sweater. It's been in my library for a long time and I would like to make it. This is from Vicky. Her photos for this is absolutely beautiful. So this is Tea Party on Superwash BFL that she's been spinning up for the Sweet Georgia Yarns spring make-along. The make-along ended almost a month ago, and to half quote Gandalf, this sweater, this project was never late, nor was it early. It was done precisely when it was meant to be done. I love that. I have a Sport DK weight, about 16 wraps per inch, 2-ply, 100 grams or 4 ounces, and drum roll 600 yards. Amazing. What? I counted 4 times to make sure. The skein is huge. I applied this on my new mini Hansen spinner, but initially spun the singles on my Kromsky Fantasia. One of the reasons I purchased my Hansen was for the bigger bobbins, but not because I wanted to get 12 ounces on each bobbin. Now that I am spinning loftier yarns, I find 4 ounces plied cannot fit on one bobbin anymore. It never occurred to me that this would also help with not breaking the color sequence of my spinning as well. Absolutely, Vicky. I included pictures of my 2 Kromsky bobbins with the color sequence of my spinning as well. Her photos are just gorgeous. And some was already plied off before I remembered to stop and take a picture. And the picture of my Hansen bobbin is the entire 100 grams. I'm very happy with this yarn and how it turned out. Beautiful. I love this photo actually, with the bobbins on the Kromsky. I just love the look of the Kromsky walnut. It's just beautiful. Really, really lovely. And that's the Hansen bobbin with all of it on there before she skeined it off. Beautiful. All these projects are so amazing. The sewing machine, Megan. Sweater looks amazing. Seeing how gorgeous, beautiful, Vicky. I love it. All right, let's see. Where are we? Pernell had another share. I love this. When I first started spinning, I got a bunch of merino to play with from a lady I hardly know. I have met her a couple of times, but mainly the knowledge of each other must be the Danish knitting community and the fact that we both follow each other on Instagram. What a wonderful world. The colors was very bright, and my first thought was to dye it before spinning. Right around the same time, I got my hands on some walnuts and solar dyed chunks of it, of all of the colors with the walnuts. I divided the dyed wool into small nests and spun without looking at what color came next and made a 3-ply. Isn't that amazing? This yarn is amazing. It was really pretty, and my partner wanted a cap, which is not finished yet. During the recent weeks, I have dyed the rest of the merino using acid dyes, mainly greens, but also blues and purples. I have a lot of greens, and the original purple and orange is a lot different than the newly dyed greens and blues, and I've divided the dyed wool into 2 piles. The green and blue and the purple and orangish. I have half a braid of some lamb's wool, no idea what kind of lamb, which will be perfect with the orange and the purples, and someday I will dive into that. But for now, I will do the same as I did with the walnut, small nests, and spin whatever color I get my hands on using the green and blues. I'm not sure if it will end up a 2-ply or a 3-ply, but I really like the 3-ply. I love what 3-ply looks like. When it comes to color, I just love 3-ply yarns. The result of the walnut is amazing, so pretty, so stunning. I agree, you guys. I love this photo. I'm often drawn to the photos that you guys take. Like I read about the projects and I look at your process and what you're doing and whatnot. And then I look at the photos and I find I derive so much inspiration from those things. Reading about them, thinking about what you guys are working on, and then looking at the photos. It's just really quite incredible. This is a lovely spin from Dion. I recently had a few bad spins. One was full of naps in my soft fleece, and the other two were spinning coarse wool that actually hurt my drafting hand. I decided to go with some fun spins. I pulled out my blending board and went to town. The first is wool bamboo, 2 different sari silks, and Kingdom Fleece and Fiberworks Heather Fields pin drafted roving. I chain plied this, and the others are 2-ply. The second is a gray flax, pink multicolor cotton, and mulberry silk. What a cool combo. I think that's the pink one there. The last 2 are Gotland BFL 50/50. I decided on these after knitting the 100% Gotland swatch, which was a bit itchy for me. I've actually been thinking about the same thing, Dion, which is kind of funny because I have all of that gray Gotland in my stash, and the gray Gotland next to the skein that I had intentionally spun for Aurelius by Jennifer Steinglass, I think it's. I really want to knit that pattern, and it was gifted to me, and I'm just really like wanting to knit it. But the gray Gotland next to the gray base of the Spunky Eclectic braid, it's just too dark, and the Gotland is quite coarse, like it's quite toothy, and so I was thinking about maybe blending it with some BFL, some white BFL, which would lighten the gray, and then I would have this really great slightly less toothy, a little bit softer, I hate that word, yarn to go with these Spunky Eclectic. So that's kind of been in the back of my mind, so I thought this was really interesting that you had done this experiment. Let me just catch up. I love this yarn so much. It's going to be incredible. My mom can't get over how amazing and perfect you are for leading us all in the making. Oh, thank you, Dana. That's really kind of your mom. Oh, thanks, you guys. I think this is where we really shine as a community, is how prolific this community is. Like, this community is unbelievably prolific. Like, you guys are making so much stuff. And I just want to say, I missed it the first time I looked at these photographs, and then when I was editing and putting things together for the show, I caught it. If you look at one of Shauna's photographs, she's actually put a heart. She's done a heart with her yarn. It just made my heart sing. All right, so this is from Shauna. I finished a pair of handspun socks. So we shared this yarn a little while ago, so I thought this was really fun to see it actually knit up. Out of 3-ply fractal spin, 80% BFL, 20% nylon. I was afraid I would end up with shorty socks because I calculated only 275 yards. And usually my socks are more like 350, but somehow these turned out quite long. They are thick fingering weight, and I love the bright colors. It's beautiful, gorgeous. Those socks are amazing. Eve loves them. She loves bright colors. I saw the heart. All right, this one is from Sue. I love this so much. I hope this doesn't make me tear up, but this story is just really really touching. So this is a Targhee spin I started in September of 2019. It was right before my husband passed away. I finished the singles but never plied until yesterday. It took all afternoon and last night. It's very thin. It's still drying but I can't wait to post. I soaked it in hot water and lots of the orange dye came out. The skein is still beautiful. Even though it's still damp, it's very light. I thwacked it to finish it and it was balanced. It's very soft. There is a pic of it hanging on the door before and after soaking. It shrunk a bit. The pic that with Rachel on the iPad was taken September 26th of 2019. Now I have to clean off other support spindles from another spin from the winter of 2020. So I realized when I was reading Sue's post and when I was putting this all together, I actually realized that one of the reasons why I was having such a hard time finishing Magnolia Bloom is because I had bought this yarn. It's Custom Woolen Mills, 4-ply. They call it their 4-ply sock, but it's a CVM kind of cross, and it's got a mix of other things in it as well. It's very, very rustic. It's a very stiff yarn. I think this is one of those yarns that Elizabeth Zimmerman talks about, like when you wash it and you wear it for like 50 years, you know, that it'll just slowly soften over time, kind of like what we expect in our finished linen yarns after we spin flax. And it gets softer and softer and softer every time we wash it. I have knit about 4 sweaters out of this yarn and nothing ever works. And I keep coming back to it and I keep coming back to it, and I want to work with it and I want it, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And I was reading Sue's post and thinking, like, she started this spin back before her husband had passed. And I bought this yarn on the day that, we were in downtown Whitehorse in Yukon, and we were standing along the river. So for those who know Whitehorse, you'll know exactly where I'm talking about. It was right by the old train station. And the rapids along there in that river are very, very, very loud. And this was July of 2019. And I had just been in Itty Bitty Yarn Shop in the little mall that's right there. And there's this wonderful toy shop there as well. So the kids had been in there and they'd picked a couple of souvenirs. And my mom called me. So I left the store, the toy store, to talk to my mom. And she told me that my dad had stage 4 cancer. And I had seen this yarn in Itty Bitty, and I'd picked it up and I'd carried it around and I put it back, and I picked it up and I put it back. And after I got off the phone with my mom, I was on the phone with my mom for over an hour and a half because my dad didn't want to come onto the phone. And he had gone out into the garden, into his rose garden. And they had just been told, and I went back and I bought this yarn immediately. And that is why this yarn cannot be knit. Because every time I do something with this yarn, all those familiar feelings of standing there on the walkway that day and listening to the river and listening to my mom and talking her through what it would look like, and what the next few weeks would look like. And we were on our way home at that point. So it was our last day in Whitehorse, and then we were going to be heading home. I asked her if she wanted me to fly home, and she said no. And that's why this yarn is so charged. And I felt over the last few weeks that it was time to be done. It was time to be knit. It was time to be done. And that gave me the courage to finish Magnolia Bloom. And I'm really happy with how it turned out. And it's exactly what it should have been. And it all just needed time and the space to allow it to kind of be finished. Does that make sense? So, Sue, your project really resonated with me, as you can tell. And yeah, it's a nice place to finish the show today. So I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful rest of your weekend. Please post as many photos as you want for Spindle Spun Summer starting tomorrow. And I'm really excited to share tons and tons and tons of spindle photos. I have my project all ready to go. I'm going to actually start it today because I'm working tomorrow. And it's hard for me to take spindle projects to work. And we'll be starting Tour de Fleece next week. And I have a project for that as well. So I'm excited about that because we're going to be home all of July. So until next time, happy spinning, happy knitting. I will start the Zoom right after we're finished here for queries and explorations. And I look forward to seeing you guys in a few minutes. And for the rest of you, have a wonderful weekend. Bye, guys.